One thing needs to be said up front. Collapsing here means sales momentum and market position, not that the car sitting in your driveway is suddenly unsafe or badly built. Several of these brands still make genuinely solid vehicles. What's collapsing is registration numbers. And in New Zealand specifically, that's happening for a very clear reason. Chinese brands like BYD, GWM, MG, Zeekr, and Chery have grabbed roughly a quarter of the passenger market here in recent months, eating share directly from established names that used to have this country largely to themselves. This is based on real 2026 registration data, not speculation. Drop your region in the comments, because dealer density for some of these brands is starting to thin out noticeably depending on where in New Zealand you live. Let's start the countdown. Number 6, Volkswagen. Volkswagen's struggles in New Zealand aren't showing up as a single dramatic sales collapse the way some other brands on this list are. It's more of a slow product gap opening up. The clearest local sign is the delay of the new electric Golf, originally expected to anchor Volkswagen's next-generation lineup here, now pushed back all the way to the end of the decade. In a market where BYD, MG, and GWM are launching genuinely competitive electrified models every few months, a multi-year delay on your flagship next-gen model is the kind of thing that quietly bleeds market share while nobody's watching the headline numbers. If you're shopping Volkswagen right now, the current lineup remains competent, but you're buying into a brand whose local product pipeline is visibly behind schedule against faster-moving competitors. Number 5, Honda. Honda's New Zealand passenger sales dropped double digits at the start of 2026 and were still sliding by the middle of the year, a consistent enough pattern across multiple months that it's not just noise. This lines up with a much bigger global story. Honda has been candid recently about the scale of its financial losses worldwide, while simultaneously confirming a wave of new hybrid models due by 2028. That's a brand mid-transition, betting heavily on electrification and hybrid tech to turn things around, which is a reasonable strategy, but it also means the current New Zealand lineup is aging while Honda's real investment focus sits several years out. If you're considering a Honda today, the product itself remains genuinely solid. We've praised the CR-V and Civic repeatedly on this channel. But a brand losing share this consistently, while its next real product wave is still years away, is worth factoring into how much negotiating room and how much long-term dealer investment you can realistically expect. Number 4, Isuzu. Isuzu's commercial registrations fell sharply in New Zealand through the middle of 2026, a meaningful hit for a brand whose entire local identity is built around utes and commercial vehicles. Isuzu has historically punched above its weight here, thanks to the D-Max's reputation for simplicity and low running costs. But the commercial segment overall has become brutally competitive, with Ford's Ranger dominating the charts and Chinese brands like BYD's Shark 6 plug-in hybrid Uda now cracking the top 5 bestsellers outright. Isuzu doesn't have the marketing budget or model breadth of Toyota or Ford to fight on multiple fronts at once, which leaves it increasingly squeezed in a segment it used to have comfortable breathing room in. Number 3, Mazda. This one's genuinely surprising given how strongly Mazda started 2026 in New Zealand, posting solid year-on-year growth in January. But by the middle of the year, Mazda's passenger registrations had swung hard into decline, dropping close to 40% in a single month and falling several places down the brand rankings in the process. The volatility itself is worth noting. Mazda isn't in the kind of steady, multi-year slide Nissan is facing, but a swing this dramatic inside 6 months suggests the brand is struggling to hold its position as Chinese competitors like GWM's Haval H6 push directly into Mazda's mid-size SUV territory with more standard equipment at a sharper price. If you already own a Mazda, this doesn't undo everything we've said about its reliability and low running costs on this channel, but it does mean you may find more room to negotiate at the dealership right now than you would have 12 months ago. Number 2, Suzuki. Suzuki's New Zealand sales have been consistently weak all year, down close to a quarter at the start of 2026 and sliding even further, over 40%, by the middle of the year compared to an admittedly strong prior year comparison. Suzuki's core problem mirrors what we've seen in other markets. a lineup built around small, efficient cars at a moment when Kiwi buyers are increasingly drawn to midsize SUVs and utes, exactly the segments where Chinese brands are undercutting everyone on price while offering more standard technology. Suzuki did recently bring its first EV to the New Zealand market, but even local commentary has questioned whether that move arrived too late to meaningfully compete against the wave of affordable Chinese electric options already established here. If Suzuki's your daily driver, the reliability reputation genuinely remains solid. This is purely a market position problem, but shrinking sales base can mean fewer dealers and longer waits for parts outside the main centers over time. Number 1, Nissan. This is the brand collapsing hardest in New Zealand, and it isn't close. Nissan's passenger sales fell nearly 44% at the start of 2026, and the commercial side of the business has been even more dramatic. Nissan's van and Ute registrations essentially cratered once the outgoing Navara finished its run-out, dropping from over 400 units to under 40 in a single-month comparison. And like every other market we've covered on this channel, this isn't just a local story, it's global. Nissan has spent the last 2 years in serious financial restructuring, cutting tens of thousands of jobs worldwide, closing plants, and scrambling to stabilize after previous merger talks with Honda fell apart. In New Zealand specifically, that instability shows up as a genuinely thin model changeover moment. The new generation Navara hasn't yet filled the gap left by the outgoing model in anything like the volume Nissan needs, and the brand is now fighting for relevance in a Ute segment where Ford's Ranger and a wave of Chinese electrified utes have moved in fast. If you're considering a Nissan in 2026, the vehicle itself might be perfectly fine, but you're buying into a brand whose long-term local commitment and financial footing are genuinely in question, and that's a real risk to resale value and parts support 5 or 10 years down the road. Here's the takeaway. A brand sales numbers collapsing doesn't automatically mean the car in front of you is bad. Several of these brands still build genuinely competent vehicles, and even Toyota itself has posted volatile monthly results this year purely because of how fast Chinese brands are expanding, not because the RAV4 got worse. What it does mean is added risk around resale value, dealer density, and long-term model support. 3 things that matter just as much as fuel economy and servicing cost once you're 3 or 4 years into ownership. If this breakdown gave you something to think about before your next purchase, hit like so more Kiwi buyers see it before they walk onto a yard. Subscribe if you want more no-nonsense market breakdowns, because the New Zealand auto industry is shifting faster in 2026 than it has in years, and we're going to keep tracking exactly who's winning and who's losing. And drop a comment with your region and whether you're currently driving one of these 6 brands, because real dealer and ownership experience from across this country tells us more than any registration chart ever will. Buy smart, not by trend.